we are starting section 2 of our series on the book of Revelation, and section 2 is entitled The Scroll with 7 Seals. Now this is a fresh look at this topic, and we've jam-packed it with so much information for you guys that we hope you'll really enjoy it and be edified by it. It's in 12 episodes. Tonight's episode, episode 1, is entitled The Throne.
I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard said, Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the Spirit. Behold, the throne was...
Being that this is our, this is episode 1, let's talk a little bit about what the seals are. The seals, which we find in the book of Revelation, chapter 5, verses 1 to 8, and then, chapter 5, verse 1 through chapter 8, verse 6, we believe, based on the events resulting from the breaking of the 6th seal, in Revelation 6:12, are a summary, now get that, a summary of all the divine judgments which will usher in the day of the Lord, including the whole of the tribulation, and leading up to the end, the last 7 years, and the great day of his wrath. Therefore, they cover the whole period in broad outlines. Now, this is super, super important. There is every reason to believe that the day of the Lord will be a prolonged period. Now, let me say that again. There is every reason to believe that the day of the Lord will be a prolonged period. It must not be limited or confined to just 7 years, as everyone seems to think and most interpreters say. As we went over extensively in our series section 1, the churches, the time between the coming forth of the Lord to snatch up, or harpazo, and meet his church in the air, and his coming unto the earth with his church, the time between, in power and great glory, we believe could very well correspond to the 33 years between his coming forth at Bethlehem, as we read in Micah 5:2, and his coming unto Jerusalem, as we read in Zechariah 9:9. All the events between Micah 5:2 and Zechariah 9:9 we speak of as constituting his first coming. Now, in like manner, all the events described in the book of Revelation, which take place between his coming for and his coming with his church, we also can speak of as his second coming, or the day of the Lord. Now, all of this we will, Lord willing, and with the Lord's guidance, delve into and tackle in this new series, section 2, The Scroll with 7 Seals. So we hope you watch each episode. There's a total of 12 episodes. So make sure you get on to every one. Okay. As we all know, that which comes first in the book gives its importance and significance to the whole book. So the first thing seen and the first thing mentioned in verse 2 is the throne. Now, in Revelation 4:1, let's go back there. In Revelation 4:1, we have, after these things. 7 times in this book, we have seen this or a similar expression here, and then again, here's where the expression occurs again, in chapter 7, verse 1, chapter 7, verse 9, chapter 15, verse 5, chapter 18, verse 1, chapter 19, verse 1, and chapter 20, verse 3. Now, in the last case, 20 verse 3, 1,000 years has passed. Therefore, it is clear that what is seen does not necessarily follow immediately. This is Hebrew idiom. Have a look and compare this to Genesis 22:1. All right. The next thing we see, chapter 4, I looked, and behold, a door set open in heaven. Now, there are 5 openings, if you will, mentioned in this book. And while they do not mark special literary divisions, they are all of the deepest importance and significance. The others are in chapter 11, verse 19, in chapter 15, verse 5, chapter 19, verse 11, and in chapter 21, verse 1. The first is a door open to admit John. But when the armies of heaven come forth, then John says, and I saw heaven opened in Revelation 19:11. And this time, not merely a door was opened. The same happened to Ezekiel when he saw visions of or from God. All right, Revelation 4:2 is what it says. Immediately I became in spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven. Now, no words can be more important in order to fix our minds on the great central and all-governing fact which pervades the book of this prophecy. It is the day spoken of in Psalm 103:19, where we read, "The Lord hath prepared his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom ruleth over all." And in Psalm 9 and 10, which tell of the coming great tribulation as the times of trouble, as seen in Psalms 9, verse 9, and in Psalms 10, verse 1, it is declared, "The Lord hath prepared his throne for judgment." And then in Psalm 11, verses 4 to 6, let's go there. Let's go to Psalm 11, verses 4 to 6. Here's what we read. "The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids try the children of men. The Lord trieth the righteous, but the wicked, and him that loveth violence, his soul hateth. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire, and brimstone, and an horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup." These three Psalms foretell and refer to the very scenes described more fully in the book of Revelation. Now, let's turn to Daniel chapter 7, and we're going to take a look at verses 9 and 10. Here, Daniel writes what also speaks of this very moment when he says, "I behold till the thrones were set, and the Ancient of Days did sit. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fire stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened." This throne speaks of judgment, but take note, folks, take note. The throne of grace is no longer seen. You see, grace is the character of this present time, while judgment and righteousness and justice will characterize that time which is coming. The voice in heaven announces it. "Just and true are thy ways, thou King of nations," in Revelation 15:3. "Thy judgments are made manifest," in verse 4. "Thou art just, who art and who wast, the Holy One, because thou judgest thus," in 16:5. Heaven itself bids all to rejoice at the execution of judgment, as can be seen in chapter 18, verse 20. Judgment is also the final vision, and that can be seen in Revelation 20, verse 4. And judgment is given to the saints who have overcome. Psalm 149, verses 5 to 9, tells us of that final scene. Let's go there. Psalm 149, verses 5 to 9. And here it is. "Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains, and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written, this honor have all his saints." Hallelujah. The throne, therefore, with which this first vision in heaven commences, is the great central object. And that concludes episode 1. Stay with us. Episode 2 is coming at you next. And as always, walk with the King today and be a blessing. And we'll see you next time. Isn't this great?